Thank goodness it's Shrove Tuesday this year and not in Lent like it usually is.
You are listening to Catholic Family Podcast.
Greetings to all our fellow travelers through the liturgical year. Today is a party day for our family. The Deweys family patron is King St. David of Wales, and his feast day today is the St. Patrick's Day of the Welsh people. Like families named Davies, Davidson, Dafydd, and Dewey, our ancestors received their surnames through some influence of the Welsh Saint David. In Wales, pronounced Dewey-son, Saint David was the king of Davidsons, one of many distinct kingdoms that emerged in Wales after the Romans departed in the late 4th century. Today's saint had an unusual start in life. Legend has it that he was conceived in violence by a chieftain named Xantus, and his mother, Non, who is venerated as a saint, gave birth to him on a cliff top during a violent storm. The pains of the birth were said to have been such that the imprint of Non's fingers were left in the rock she grasped, and the tale goes that as David was born, a bolt of lightning split the rock in two. Legend has it that the two pieces of the split rock later became part of the foundation for St. David's Cathedral in the county of Pembrokeshire, in the most westerly point of Wales, as well as being incorporated into the building of St. Non's Chapel, a few miles from the cathedral. There is a tradition that an angel told St. Patrick about the birth of St. David 30 years before his birth, and it can be surmised that St. Patrick's prayers contributed to the holy outcome of David's less than ideal beginning. This new baby, born on the edge of a cliff, though was blessed to be the son of a saintly mother, and later became the pupil of another saint, St. Paulinus. With the grace of God, these good influences, and the strength of his own will, David grew up to be a great and holy man. A lesson that truly anyone, regardless of their start in life, can become a saint. And how precious is every single soul. Surrounded by a warlike and half-pagan community in the earliest days of Wales, David reached heights of grace and strength, wisdom, and piety. From his youth, he was a respected and well-loved leader of his people as a member of the royal house, yet he chose to enter the religious life. Retaining his civil influence, he became known as a great preacher and teacher and founded many churches and monasteries. Eventually becoming a bishop, he presided over 2 synods, made pilgrimages to Rome and Jerusalem, and while in Jerusalem was raised up to an archbishop. The most famous miracle of his biography took place at one of the synods held in Wales. Dewey-son's preaching, as was often the case, had gathered a large crowd of the faithful, too large to be contained in the nave of the town church. Making use of an open space in the town center, the crowd extended too far beyond him, however, for his voice to be heard by all present. Hearing a tumult in the back of the crowd complaining that they couldn't hear him, our saint lifted his voice to heaven, and heaven intervened. Beneath St. David's feet a hill swelled up and rose to such a height that his voice could carry to the far edges of his flock. The village Llanddewi Brefi now surrounds this hill. It's recorded that King St. David lived to be 100 years old, dying around the year 590. His final words to his people were, "Be joyful and keep your faith and your creed. Do the little things that you have seen me do and heard about. I will walk the path that our fathers have trod before us. Do the little things in life." The same message as our St. Teresa of Lisieux only 1400 years earlier. Here are a couple notes of trivia for the day. Daffodils are the traditional symbol of Deweys-son Day in Wales. Daffodils and leeks. Daffodils because they are often blooming at the time of this feast day, and leeks because of the legend that when the Welsh faced the pagan Saxons in a battle in the late 400s, to avoid casualties due to friendly fire, King David advised his troops to put leeks in their hats to distinguish themselves from the enemy. So it's up to those of Welsh heritage to choose between pinning a flower or an onion to our sweaters on this feast day. But instead of wearing leeks, you could look up recipes for traditional leek soup for dinner. Since it's Shrove Tuesday, maybe you could add some ham this year and take advantage of the opportunity. Another traditional treat for the day are Welsh cakes, rather thick pancakes with raisins, which children love. And finally, Here's a neat thing to know. Many people have surname patron saints that they might not ever have realized. If your name is Johnson, for instance, you might decide which St. John's feast day you'd like to claim as your own. This holds true for many last names that incorporate first names, but you're not left out if you don't have a first name, last name. You can extrapolate a patron saint from the meaning of your last name. The Smith family, for instance, can adopt Saint Eligius, the French saint from the 7th century, who is the patron of metalworkers, or smiths. If your last name is Weaver, Saint Maurice is the patron saint of weavers. You get the idea. And if there isn't an obvious saint that's related to your family name, you can still choose a family patron to be a special friend and intercessor. Many families can tell stories sometimes of how saints pick them more than the other way around. We can 100% vouch for the coolness of having your own family patron, though. We can't have too many fun and pious things to bind us together under the umbrella of both our individual families and the family of the church. Signing off, this is Lisa Davis. Dídgwyl Dawi Hapus. Happy St. David's Day.
You've been listening to the Catholic Family Podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with your friends and family. You can support the production on Patreon and PayPal, and you can reach Kevin at kevin89davis@gmail.com. Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam. All for the greater glory of God.